It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in the Inland Empire today, and we are joined by Mike Soubirous. He is a member of the Riverside City Council. Of course, Riverside, the largest city in Riverside County,
yes,
which has over 2 million people in it. Riverside, about 300,000 people.
About 320?
Right. You know, your sister county, LA County, has been suffering a bit from a
yes,
homeless crisis.
Yes.
But the whole state is suffering under the weight of a homeless crisis. I want to get a sense from you, how is homelessness impacting the Inland Empire, if at all? Spikes, drops, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing a spike based on the residents complaining and also the business owners. So the calls have been increasing dramatically. I've been seeing it out on the streets myself. It just seems like busloads have suddenly just dropped off. I mean, it's an amazing amount of people. I came out of the City Hall garage walking through a breezeway to City Hall just 5 days ago, and I counted 22 just in the breezeway.
And what's remarkable about that scenario is, for those not familiar with Riverside City Hall, it is in a nice area of
yes,
town.
Yes, it is.
It is surrounded by places that you and I and others would want to frequent.
Yes, absolutely.
I am a resident of Los Angeles County, and I live in a nice area, and yet I am seeing homeless pop up everywhere.
Yes.
And while one could be frustrated by the sight of homeless, there's also a sense of compassion. I mean, you can see these people are really struggling.
Yes.
And you're a former law enforcement officer, so I'd love to get your view on that whole question.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting dynamic on the homeless. It's comprised of registered sex offenders that usually try to stay out in what's known as our Santa Ana River region, because the family doesn't want them at the house. They don't want the marker on the, on the website.
Yeah, the website,
the
exactly.
Flagging.
Right.
And then you've got your mentally ill, that some of them can be helped with some medication, some cannot. And then you've also got your down and outers that maybe just fell upon hard times. They maybe had some bad credit, maybe lost the house, the car, and one thing after the job. Mm-hmm. And then you've got your drunk and drugged. And if they're not willing to accept some hand up, reach out, there's not a lot you can do until they're ready.
Tricky is the drunk and drugged could also be down and out, could also have the issue with mental illness.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So it's almost like a tri-diagnosis.
Yes.
Some will accept services, others will not.
Yeah.
So please, sir.
And speaking on that, they say the experts, the law enforcement and some of the social services say on average 60 to 70 contacts by them before they will accept service. So they refer to them oftentimes as service resistant.
But is Riverside City and or Riverside County's law enforcement looking to approach the homeless in a different way? Because we know in the past, homelessness was, let's just say, criminalized.
Right.
We are now realizing maybe that's not the best approach. Arresting the homeless, they can't pay their tickets, they can't pay their fines. It doesn't get them anywhere.
Right.
Is law enforcement working to change their interaction?
They have actually in Riverside for probably a couple years now, and the idea is the very premise is it's not illegal to be homeless.
Right.
But some of our homeless population, a vast majority of them, are committing crimes that are anything from trespass to stealing copper to be able to turn in for, to make money for whatever they're going to buy.
A lot of it is this panhandling.
Right.
It's this creating nuisance.
Right.
And, that technically is illegal. It is technically illegal. You're creating a nuisance, you're panhandling, you're trespassing.
Well, and there is a difference between panhandlers and homeless. The studies will show that the majority of the homeless are not panhandlers.
Well,
and the majority of the panhandlers are not homeless.
Right.
And I frequently will talk to people that appear to be homeless, and I'll say, maybe it contributes to the problem, don't know, but I'll say, look, I'm near a McDonald's. Let me buy you, a dinner or whatever you want. But just talk to me. And they tell me they do not want services. They tell me that they like their lifestyle, which is amazing. They want to continue with not having to punch a clock. And a lot of them will tell me that they do not panhandle because they do not want to get a citation or have to deal with the cops.
We also know simultaneously we have seen an increase in crime.
Yes.
Which at some level to many of us, especially someone like you with law enforcement background, seems counterintuitive.
Right.
The economy's improving.
Right.
We had crime dropping during a downturn. We have crime increasing during the upturn.
Right.
Now, a lot of folks have said, we are seeing this uptick because of Prop 47, which reclassified some drug offenses to misdemeanors, because of AB 109, which sent lower level offenders to county facilities. Gang violence is on the rise. But then there are some that say the problem is homelessness.
To some degree.
And so it's obviously complicated. What's your insight on that very question?
I think it's a combination of both. But I think that what's happening, and this is why we're trying to take a regional approach in Riverside and talking with the county and surrounding cities, is law enforcement is getting more directing their resources at certain areas, especially homeless, that are committing crimes, not the homeless, but the homeless committing crimes. And
I understand.
There's a distinction there. And I think what we're doing is we're kind of moving them around. We'll chase them out for just maybe putting up some issues where we're contacting them more. So what we're doing is that we're in a sense chasing them out because they see that there's increased attention on them. Other cities will step up to the plate and start doing the same thing. So we're kind of just moving these folks around. So what we want to do is we don't want to just be spending the taxpayer money just chasing these people from one location to another. We want to try to come up with some valuable solutions.
Well, let's talk about solutions, because obviously the state can take certain approaches to this. We know, for example, that there may be a initiative on the ballot in November that's originating out of the state Senate that would redirect certain Prop 63 funds. It gets complicated,
right,
but
it does. But basically, monies will trickle down.
Right, but there's also the question of local solutions.
Right.
Now, in Los Angeles County, they're thinking of putting a measure on the ballot that would tax millionaires to raise funds. I mean, do we need to go to our voters to try to raise a revenue for homeless services? Is it that severe?
Well, part of the problem is some of the local churches, and that's where our city is trying to partner with them and get the message across to the public. Oftentimes I've found that in areas in my ward, for instance, I had a high number or high concentration of homeless. And a few different business owners would tell me, well, that's because of the mass feeds. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, well, at one particular, I think it's a Ralph's, a van will pull up 2 or 3 times a week. Certain churches, the van door will slide open and out comes 400 boxes of pizza. It's counterproductive of where that money should be redirected to resources. Then think about this. Some people in our city have said, well, how about if we provide housing for them? Housing for who? Well, the housing for the homeless that we have. Well, what homeless do we have? If let's say it's 200 of them and we provide some kind of a housing for them, we're going to have 200 more, and 200 more,
well, will we, though?
It'll never stop.
Well,
because Riverside will be a place that you'll offer housing that the others won't.
Okay, I understand.
So it's a constant trickling in.
But something has to be done. I mean, look, we can get to a point, I don't want to be alarmist, but disease, infection. I mean,
well, these people are defecating and urinating in public places and corners. You see it, you smell it, and a lot of people are getting upset about it. And then there's the economic aspect of the business owners that say, look, we've caged our air conditioners, we've caged all our water piping. We come in the morning and we find our sprinklers that are in some of the softer dirt, like in the planters, ripped up out of the ground, bent into a shower, and oftentimes these things will be left on. These people will start it and try to shower themselves. And we didn't have this 20 years ago.
Maddening.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how devastating that that's the only way they can take a shower. Well, how devastating.
There are outlets for them, provided that they get off the drugs and the alcohol.
Well, but here's another question. I mean, do we need to demand sobriety at the first level? I mean, couldn't one argue, let's get them into these programs and then we'll get them sober.
Yeah.
But for so many years, we demanded sobriety up front that we could never get them in the programs because that was their illness, was addiction.
Well, like at our city center at Hewlin Place and Massachusetts Avenue, and they call it Hewlin Place, it's basically a cul-de-sac that had some city buildings that they've turned into a place for, be able to access internet, wash clothes. Oftentimes, some of these people will come in, and if they've not been taking their medication or they're drunk or drugged, they come in, they start fighting, or they start tearing up the place. So, see, there's a problem there with, like, look, we've got to get you in a situation where you're in control so that we can.
So, is Riverside taking a housing first approach, meaning not demanding sobriety before you get into a program or into temporary shelter?
Yeah, it's just at least be sober that day to be able to talk to you and be able to be, deal with somebody that's being rational, and they do offer these services.
His name is Mike Soubirous. He is a member of the Riverside City Council. We are in Riverside today. I'm Brad Pomerance, Charter Local Edition.